Hey, it's Beth. Welcome to 2 Kings 22:11. When the king heard the words of the book of the law, he tore his clothes, reading the Bible to you in a year. Today we are in Ezra chapters 9 and 10. After these things had been done, the officials approached me and said, "The people of Israel, the priests, and the Levites have not separated themselves from the peoples of the land with their abominations from the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Perizzites, the Jebusites, the Amorites, the Moabites, the Egyptians, and the Amorites. For they have taken some of their daughters as wives for themselves and for their sons. Thus the holy seed has mixed itself with the peoples of the lands, and in this faithlessness the officials and leaders have led the way." When I heard this, I tore my garment and my mantle and pulled my hair from my head and my beard and sat appalled. Then all who trembled at the words of the God of Israel, because of the faithlessness of the returned exiles, gathered around me while I sat appalled until the evening sacrifice. At the evening sacrifice, I got up from my fasting with my garments and my mantle torn, and fell on my knees, spread out my hands to the Lord my God, and said, "Oh my God, I am too ashamed and embarrassed to lift my face to you, my God, for our iniquities have risen higher than our heads, and our guilt has mounted up to the heavens. From the days of our ancestors to this day, we have been deep in guilt, and for our iniquities, we, our kings and our priests, have been handed over to the kings of the lands, to the sword, to captivity, to plundering, and to utter shame, as is now the case. But now for a brief moment favor has been shown by the Lord our God, who has left us a remnant, and given us a stake in his holy place, in order that he may brighten our eyes and grant us a little sustenance in our slavery. For we are slaves, yet our God has not forsaken us in our slavery, but has extended to us his steadfast love before the kings of Persia, to give us new life, to set up the house of our God, to repair its ruin, and to give us a wall in Judea and Jerusalem. And now, our God, what shall we say after this? For we have forsaken your commandments, which you commanded by your servants the prophets, saying, the land that you are entering to possess is a land unclean, with the pollutions of the people of the lands, with their abominations. They have filled it from end to end with their uncleanness. Therefore, do not give your daughters to their sons, neither take their daughters for your sons, and never seek their peace or prosperity, so that you may be strong and eat the good of the land, and leave it for inheritance to your children forever. After all that has come upon us for our evil deeds and for our great guilt, seeing that you, our God, have punished us less than our iniquities deserve, and have given us a remnant such as this, shall we break your commandments again and intermarry with the peoples who practice these abominations? Would you not be angry with us until you destroy us without remnant or survivor? O Lord God of Israel, you are just, but we have escaped as a remnant, as is now the case. Here we are before you in our guilt, though no one can face you because of this." While Ezra prayed and made confession, weeping and throwing himself down before the house of God, a very great assembly of men, women, and children gathered to him out of Israel. The people also wept bitterly. Shechaniah the son of Jehiel, of the descendants of Elam, addressed Ezra, saying, "We have broken faith with our God and have married foreign women from the peoples of the land. But even now there is hope for Israel in spite of this. So now let us make a covenant with our God to send away all these wives and their children, according to the counsel of my Lord and of those who tremble at the commandment of our God. And let it be done according to the law. Take action, for it is your duty, and we are with you. Be strong and do it." Then Ezra stood up and made the leading priests, the Levites, and all Israel swear that they would do as had been said. So they swore. Then Ezra withdrew from before the house of God and went to the chamber of Johanan, son of Eliashib, where he spent the night. He did not eat bread or drink water, for he was mourning over the faithlessness of the exiles. They made a proclamation through Judah and Jerusalem to all the returned exiles that they should assemble at Jerusalem, and that if any did not come within 3 days, by order of the officials and the elders, all their property should be forfeited, and they themselves banned from the congregation of the exiles. Then all the people of Judah and Benjamin assembled at Jerusalem within the 3 days. It was the 9th month, on the 12th day of the month. All the people sat in the open square before the house of God, trembling because of this matter and because of the heavy rain. Then Ezra the priest stood up and said to them, "You have trespassed and married foreign women, and so increased the guilt of Israel. Now make confession to the Lord, the God of your ancestors, and do his will. Separate yourselves from the peoples of the land and from the foreign wives." Then all the assembly answered with a loud voice, "It is so. We must do as you have said." But the people are many, and it is a time of heavy rain. We cannot stand in the open, nor is this a task for one day or for two, for many of us have transgressed in this matter. Let our officials represent the whole assembly, and let all in our towns who have taken foreign wives come at appointed times, and with them the elders and judges of every town, until the fierce wrath of our God on this account is averted from us. Only Jonathan, son of Asahel, and Jahaziah, son of Tikvah, opposed to this, and Meshullam and Shabbathai, the Levites, supported them. Then the returned exiles did so. Ezra the priest selected men, heads of families, according to their families, each of them designated by name. On the first day of the 10th month, they sat down to examine the matter. By the first day of the first month, they had come to the end of all the men who had married foreign women. They were found of the descendants of the priests who had married foreign women, of the descendants of Jeshua, son of Jozadak, and his brother, Maaseiah, Eleazar, Jerib, and Geladiah. They pledged themselves to send away their wives, and their guilt offering was a ram of the flock for their guilt. Of the descendants of Immer, Hanani, and Zebdiah. Of the descendants of Harim, Maaseiah, Elijah, Shemaiah, Jehiel, and Uzziah. Of the descendants of Pashur, Eloni, Masai, Ishmael, Nathaniel, Jozabad, and Elisah. Of the Levites, Jozabad, Shimei, Keliah, that is, Kelida, Pelthiel, Judah, and Eleazar. Of the singers, Eliashib. Of the gatekeepers, Shallum, Telem, and Uri. And of Israel, of the descendants of Perosh, Ramiah, Isaiah, Malchijah, Mijamin, Eleazar, Hashabiah, and Benaiah. Of the descendants of Elam, Mattaniah, Zechariah, Jehiel, Abdi, Jeremoth, and Elijah. Of the descendants of Zatu, Elionai, Eliashib, Mattaniah, Jeremoth, Zabad, and Aziz. Of the descendants of Bebai, Yohanan, Hananiah, Zabai, and Althai. Of the descendants of Bani, Meshullam, Maluk, Adaiah, Jashub, Shael, and Jeremoth. Of the descendants of Pathmoab, Adnah, Shalal, Benaiah, Masai, Mattaniah, Bezalai, Benui, and Manasseh. Of the descendants of Harim, Eleazar, Ishja, Malchijah, Shemaiah, Shimeon, Benjamin, Maluk, and Shemariah. Of the descendants of Hashem, Mattanai, Matan, Zabad, Elphalet, Jeremiah, Manasseh, and Shimei. Of the descendants of Bani, Madai, Amram, Uel, Benaiah, Bediah, Chelui, Vanna, Meremoth, Eliashib, Mattaniah, Mattanai, and Yasu. Of the descendants of Benui, Shimei, Shalmeiah, Nathan, Adaiah, Machnadabai, Shashai, Sharai, Azarel, Shelemai, Shemshariah, Shalom, Amariah, and Joseph. Of the descendants of Nebo, Jael, Mathathai, Zabad, Zebniah, Jaddai, Joel, and Benaiah. All these had married foreign women, and they sent them away with their children. 2 Chronicles chapters 1 and 2. Solomon, son of David, established himself in his kingdom. The Lord his God was with him and made him exceedingly great. Solomon summoned all Israel, the commanders of the thousands and of the hundreds, the judges, and all the leaders of all Israel, the heads of the families. Then Solomon and the whole assembly with him went to the high place that was at Gibeon, for God's tent of meeting, which Moses, the servant of God, had made in the wilderness, was there. But David had brought the ark of God up from Kiriath-jearim to the place that David had prepared for it, for he had pitched a tent for it in Jerusalem. Moreover, the bronze altar that Bezalel, son of Uri, son of Hur, had made was there in front of the tabernacle of the Lord, and Solomon and the assembly inquired at it. Solomon went up there to the bronze altar before the Lord, which was at the tent of the meeting, and offered 1,000 burnt offerings on it. That night God appeared to Solomon and asked him, "Ask what I should give you." Solomon said to God, "You have shown great and steadfast love to my father David, and have made me succeed him as king. O Lord God, let your promise to my father David now be fulfilled, for you have made me king over a people numerous as the dust of the earth. Give me now wisdom and knowledge to go out and to come in before this people, for who can rule this great people of yours? God answered Solomon, because this was in your heart, and you have not asked for possessions, wealth, honor, or the life of those who hate you, and have not asked for long life, but have asked for wisdom and knowledge for yourself, that you may rule my people, over whom I have made you king, wisdom and knowledge are granted to you. I will also give you riches, possessions, and honor, such as none of the kings had who were before you, and none after you shall have the like. So Solomon came from the high place at Gibeon, from the tent of meeting to Jerusalem, and he reigned over Israel. Solomon gathered together chariots and horses. He had 1,400 chariots and 12,000 horses, which he stationed in the chariot cities and with the king in Jerusalem. The king made silver and gold as common in Jerusalem as stone. He made cedar as plentiful as the sycamore in the Shephelah. Solomon's horses were imported from Egypt at Q. The king's traders received them from Q at the prevailing price. They imported from Egypt and then exported a chariot of 600 shekels of silver and a horse for 150. So through them, these were exported to all the kings of the Hittites and the kings of Aram. Solomon decided to build a temple for the name of the Lord and the royal palace for himself. Solomon conscripted 70,000 laborers and 80,000 stonecutters in the hill country, with 3,600 to oversee them. Solomon sent word to King Hiram of Tyre, once you dealt with my father David and sent him cedar to build himself a house to live in. I am now about to build a house for the name of the Lord my God and dedicate it to him, offering fragrant incense before him, and for the regular offering of the rows of bread, and for the burnt offerings morning and evening, on the Sabbaths and the new moons, and the appointed festivals of the Lord our God, as ordained forever for Israel. The house that I am about to build will be great, for our God is greater than other gods. But who is able to build him a house, since heaven, even highest heaven, cannot contain him? Who am I to build a house for him, except as a place to make offerings before him? So now send me an artisan, skilled to work in gold, silver, bronze, and iron, and in purple, crimson, and blue fabrics, trained also in engraving, to join the skilled workers who are with me in Judah and Jerusalem, whom my father David provided. Send me also cedar, cypress, and aldum timber from Lebanon, for I know that your servants are skilled in cutting Lebanon timber. My servants will work with your servants to prepare timber for me in abundance, for the house I am to build will be great and wonderful. I will provide for your servants, those who cut the timber, 20,000 cores of crushed wheat, 20,000 cores of barley, 20,000 baths of wine, and 20,000 baths of oil. Then King Hiram of Tyre answered in a letter that he sent to Solomon, because the Lord loves his people, he has made you king over them. Hiram also said, Blessed be the Lord God of Israel, who made heaven and earth, who has given King David a wise son, endowed with discretion and understanding, who will build a temple for the Lord and a royal palace for himself. I have dispatched Hiram Abi, a skilled artisan endowed with understanding, the son of one of the Dananite women, his father a Tyrian. He is trained to work in gold, silver, bronze, iron, stone, and wood, and in purple, blue, and crimson fabrics, and fine linen, and to do all sorts of engraving, and execute any design that may be assigned him, with your artisans, the artisans of my lord, your father David. Now as for the wheat, barley, oil, and wine, of which my lord has spoken, let him send them to his servants. We will cut whatever timber you need from Lebanon, and bring it to you by rafts by sea to Joppa, and you will take it up to Jerusalem. Then Solomon took a census of all the aliens who were residing in the land of Israel, after the census his father David had taken, and there were found to be 156,600. 70,000 of them he assigned as laborers, 80,000 as stonecutters in the hill country, and 3,600 as overseers to make the people work. The book of John, chapter 6, verses 1 to 24. After this, Jesus went to the other side of the Sea of Galilee, also called the Sea of Tiberias. A large crowd kept following him, because they saw the signs that he was doing for the sick. Jesus went up the mountain and sat down there with his disciples. Now the Passover, the festival of the Jews, was near. When he looked up and saw a large crowd coming towards him, Jesus said to Philip, Where are we to buy bread for these people to eat? He said this to test him, for he himself knew what he was going to do. Philip answered him, 6 months' wages would not buy enough bread for each of them to get a little. One of his disciples, Andrew, Simon Peter's brother, said to him, There is a boy here who has 5 barley loaves and 2 fish, but what are they among so many people? Jesus said, Make the people sit down. Now there was a great deal of grass in the place, so they sat down, and about 5,000 in all. Then Jesus took the loaves, and when he had given thanks, he distributed them to those who were seated, so also the fish, as much as they wanted. When they were satisfied, he told his disciples, Gather up the fragments left over, so that nothing may be lost. So they gathered them up, and from the fragments of the 5 barley loaves, left by those who had eaten, they filled 12 baskets. When the people saw the sign he had done, they began to say, This is indeed the prophet who has come into the world. When Jesus realized that they were about to come and take him by force to make him king, he withdrew again to the mountain by himself. When evening came, his disciples went down to the lake, got into a boat, and started across the lake to Capernaum. It was now dark, and Jesus had not yet come to them. The lake became rough because a strong wind was blowing. When they had rowed about 3 or 4 miles, they saw Jesus walking on the lake and coming near the boat, and they were terrified. But he said to them, It is I, do not be afraid. Then they wanted to take him into the boat, and immediately the boat reached the land towards which they were going. The next day, the crowd that had stayed on the other side of the lake saw that there had been only one boat there. They also saw that Jesus had not got into the boat with his disciples, but that his disciples had gone away alone. Then some boats from Tiberias came near the place where they had eaten the bread after the Lord had given thanks. So when the crowd saw that neither Jesus nor his disciples were there, they themselves got into the boats and went to Capernaum looking for Jesus. Thus ends the reading for today. Never walk alone.